Good morning and welcome to the press, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Of course, I am Messi Babajide, and on the press, I am not alone this morning. Welcome.
All right, good morning and thanks for joining us on the press. As you know, the press is where we bring you, of course, newspaper headlines and analysis and sometimes social media. Good morning.
How are you? You look radiant. We're already look like a
magnificent.
Oh my God! I'm going to go that way this morning.
From the talk back.
The talk back.
You look great, especially with the black outfit.
Well, black never goes wrong. Yeah. Black is the new black.
You look great.
Thank you. I'm fine. How are you?
Long holiday.
It wasn't exactly long because I only had like Tuesday and Monday, Sunday and Monday off. I worked all weekend. So, but then I still had nice 2 days to myself. At least I got to sleep and probably what's that word, rejuvenates, and then I'm back to work. And
okay, so what were your major highlights for the weekend?
For weekend, major highlight I think was church for me. I had a great time with God. He was different. He was just basically different. It felt like, you know, that kind of, it felt like those times that you go to church and you've been saying God speak to me and he said, okay, go this way, and then you just have that confirmation in church. But it's not a religious banter, so let's not get into that. Yeah. Okay, our viewers at home, of course, you know, on the press, we do not just give you newspaper headlines. We get to the part where we bring our guest analysts, of course, to analyze most of the headlines this morning, and then we get to the social media part. Trust me, today's social media part is coming with a difference. And I'd like to start with weather forecast for today. Weather forecast for today, Tuesday, 25th of April 2023. The weather forecast, I'll start with Kaduna. For Kaduna, 26 degrees Celsius for Kaduna, and it's mostly cloudy this morning. Highest at 35 degrees Celsius and lowest at 23 degrees Celsius. Then partly cloudy conditions from 9 a.m. to 1300, that's 1 p.m. Nigerian time, with thunderstorms expected at 1300, that's 1 p.m. Nigerian time. And I move to Imo. For Imo State, 27 degrees Celsius, 27 degrees Celsius for Imo. It's cloudy today, and the highest, of course, at 34 degrees Celsius, 34 degrees Celsius, lowest at 24 degrees Celsius. Thunderstorms expected around 9 a.m. this morning, and this is 9:06 already. Kano. For Kano, 28 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy conditions, highest at 39 degrees Celsius and lowest at 24 degrees Celsius. Cloudy conditions expected around 11 this morning. Now that's for Kano. And now to Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt, 28 degrees Celsius, cloudy and highest at 33 degrees Celsius, lowest at 25 degrees Celsius. Thunderstorms expected around 9 a.m. this morning, and it's of course 9:06 already. Then for Lagos Center of Excellence, Lagos, 29 degrees Celsius, it's mostly cloudy and highest at 33 degrees Celsius, lowest at 27 degrees Celsius. Thunderstorms expected around 9 a.m. this morning. And finally on Abuja, we move to Abuja Center of Excellence, nation's capital, 27 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, highest at 35 degrees Celsius, lowest at 23 degrees Celsius. Thunderstorms expected around 11 this morning. And that's where we come to the end for weather forecast for today. Do well to take the necessary precautions, and of course, Victoria would say take your umbrella whether it's sunny or it's raining. So over to Victoria now.
All right, let's move to the dailies, where we have first the Guardian newspaper, and the biggest bold headline there says Nigerians spend 2.4 trillion naira yearly on malaria prevention treatment. Nigerians spend 2.04 trillion yearly on malaria prevention treatment, and that's on the International Day. So we'll move straight to another headline here, which says Afenifere tackles Buhari over resurgence of terrorism, plea for forgiveness. Well, you can get details of that story on the page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. And pharmacists kick over exclusion from 40% pay rise for workers make demand. Pharmacists kick over exclusion from 40% pay rise for workers make demands. Well, details of that story you'll find on the page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. And we move straight to another headline. 161,272 financial threats blocked in Nigeria last year. Well, details of that story, and that's in business, page 23 of the Guardian newspaper. And worries over HND BSc bill as Buhari's exit nears. Worries over HND BSc bill as Buhari's exit nears. Well, that's on news analysis, page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. After 34 days, rest overseas. Tinubu affirms readiness for task ahead. After 34 days, rest overseas. Tinubu affirms readiness for task ahead. Well, because of that story you'll find on the page 6 of the Guardian. And Sudan crisis, perhaps the last headline on the Guardian this morning. Sudan crisis. Airline offers free flight as Northern coalition condemns delay in evacuation. And that's on Sudan crisis. The airline offers free flight as Northern coalition condemns delay in evacuation. Details of that story you'll find on the page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. And that's all on the Guardian newspaper. Do well to grab a copy.
And now I'll start with the Punch for some punchy headlines this morning. And for the Punch, the biggest story here reads: Tinubu returns after 34 days, dismisses ill health rumors. Ignore ill health rumors. I will assemble strong team and hit the ground running. That's coming from President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The President-elect APC National Working Committee to meet lawmakers-elect over National Assembly leadership. All of this can be found on page 2 of the Punch newspaper this morning. And I move to the next story, which reads: 3 feared dead, 3 feared killed as youths clash in Abuja community. 3 feared killed as youths clash in Abuja community. That's on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. And we move to page 3. The kicker of this story reads: Lagos Stadium. And the rider reads: from West Africa's best to national shame. From West Africa best to national shame. And to pages 4 and 5, rampaging youths bury 2 Benue men alive. Wow, that's sad. And that's on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. And now to Sudan conflict. Sudan conflict is the kicker of the story, and the rider reads: Ethiopia blocks fleeing Nigerian students. Factions agree 72 hours ceasefire. Federal government knocks students for ignoring warnings against self-evacuation. That's on page 8 of the Punch. And now to the last story. NGF holds valedictory session for 17 outgoing governors. NGF holds valedictory session for 17 outgoing governors. That's on page 9 of the Punch. And for the picture story to my left, President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu returns after 34 days holiday in Paris, France, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. Well, for more of the Punch, you do well to get a copy of the Punch newspaper, of course, to read more on the headlines.
All right, we'll move straight to Vanguard, where we have above the masthead: Sudan. Evacuation of over 2,000 Nigerians begins today. Sudan, evacuation of over 2,000 Nigerians begins today. And a rider says AP6 federal government nod to airlift stranded Nigerians. NIDCOM asks Nigerians, strand students to remain. I think I don't get that, so I move on. Well, details of that story you get on the page 27 of Vanguard newspaper. And we'll move on. 40% pay rise, varsity workers on war parts with federal government over exclusion. 40% pay rise, varsity workers and war parts with federal government over exclusion. Well, details of that story you find on the page 8 of Vanguard newspaper. I have no reason to take rest because of election. I have no reason to take rest because of election. That's coming from Peter Obi. Well, details of that story you find on page 11 of the Vanguard newspaper. CBN defends Forex ban on stockfish in importation CBN defends forex ban on stockfish importation. You want to know details of that story, just go grab a copy of Vanguard newspaper and turn to page 19. And below the masthead, Sean rumors, I am strong. Tinubu says on arrival from France. Well, that's the biggest headline there on Vanguard newspaper, and with its riders at I have rested, refreshed, ready for task ahead. I have rested, refreshed, ready for tasks ahead. Party leaders to meet soon on zoning of office, says. Well, details of that story you'll find on the page 5 of Vanguard newspaper. And we move straight to another story. 3 killed as Baggy Hausa youth clash in Abuja. 3 killed as Baggy House youth clash in Abuja. Well, details of that story you find on page 7 of Vanguard newspaper. Abducted Kogi monarch dies in kidnapper's den. Abducted Kogi monarch dies in kidnapper's den. You'll find details of that story on the page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper. Again, court dashes Nigerians' air hope of flying. Again, court dashes Nigerians' air's hope of flying. Details of that story you find on the page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. And moving on, NNPCL pays $1.1 billion in AKK contractors targets third quarter completion date. Details of that story you find on page 9 of Vanguard newspaper. Electricity, new bill in House of Reps threatens 10 billion naira investments. Details you find on page 14. Too much Chibok schoolgirls rescued from Sambisa. 2 more Chibok schoolgirls rescued from Sambisa forest. Details of that story you will find on the Vanguard newspaper. I would have loved to take the Mr. and Mrs. Comment, but let's just move on. Do grab Vanguard newspaper for more updates.
And now I'll move on to the Nation's newspaper for this morning. The biggest story screaming for attention is we will deliver on renewed hope again. That's Tinubu affirms, I'm strong, very strong, he said. Rousing welcome for President-elect. That's on the Nation's newspaper for this morning. Then we move to Enugu Governor-elect names 64 transition council members. That's on page 5. And to 2,800 Nigerians expected today from Sudan. Of course, that's on every newspaper. As headlines this morning, students, embassy officials, top list. And now we take Igbo leaders urge Unwain-led Ohaneze to align with Tinubu. That's on the Nation's newspaper, and equally on page 5 to AKK pipeline to boost power with 3,600 megawatts. That's for business news. I take that story again. AKK pipeline to boost power with 3,600 megawatts. NNPCL invests $1.1 billion US dollars. NNPC invests $1.1 US dollars. And our APC will zone Senate House top post religion voting pattern key. That's on page 5. Then to why we are embracing private partners by NDDC. That's on page 6. I take that story again. Why we are embracing private partners by NDDC. Gunmen kill 6, injure 7 in Plateau community. That's on page 25 of the Nation. Then Igbo leaders urge Unwain-led Ohaneze to align with Tinubu. That's on page 5 of the Nation. Then to the picture story. Of course, this is the picture on every newspaper this morning. Back home is the kicker of the picture story, and the rider reads, President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu alighting from the plane at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, yesterday. Then to the right is Tinubu surrounded by party leaders and supporters at the airport, Abuja, yesterday. And that's all we can take on the Nation this morning. Do what to get a copy of the Nation's newspaper.
So I think we'll be moving to the Daily Sun newspaper this morning, where we have Osman Yara opens up on Tinubu Alpha Conde Guinea. Details of that story with its rider, which says throws light on elect's link with Guinea. Well, details of that story you find on page 6 of Daily Sun. About the masthead, 2023 UTME begins today as 1.5 million candidates to write in 708 centers. Well, the details of that story you find on page 28 of Daily Sun. Guinea men kill 7 in Plateau as herdsmen militia kill 4 mourners. Guinea men, I beg your pardon, gunmen kill 7 in Plateau as herdsmen militia kill 4 mourners in Benue. This is of that story you find on page 4 of Daily Sun. Enugu Governor-elect Mba names Choke Abba Unya Nebo 60 others for transition committee. This is of that story you find on page 27 of the Daily Sun. Petrol price increased by 42.63% a litre in 1 year. Petrol price increased by 42.63% a litre in 1 year, says MBS. Well, details of that story you find on page 27 of the Daily Sun. Governors hold valedictory meeting for 17 outgoing members. Well, details of that story you find on page 26 of the Sun newspaper. Imo Guba State Joint Parliament endorses Uzodimma. Imo gubernatorial election, State Joint Parliament endorses Uzodimma. Well, details of that story you find on page 6 of the Daily Sun. And Tinubu returned after 34 days abroad. It seems to be on all the dailies. Tinubu returns after 34 days abroad. Details of that story you will find on page 6 of the Daily Sun. Nigerians telephone users hit 222.5 million. Nigerians telephone users hit 222.5 million. Well, details of that story you find on page 27 of the Daily Sun, and that's all on the headlines on the Daily Sun. Do well to grab a copy.
And now we move to headlines for Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune this morning, NAS leadership. That's the kicker of the story. NAS leadership, zoning on the cards as Tinubu returns. Zoning on the cards as Tinubu returns. I'm strong, ready for task ahead, he says. New Dawn group emerges in Rep Speaker race. That's all on pages 15 and 16 of Nigerian Tribune this morning. Then panic in Abuja as communal clash claims won. That's on page 27 of Nigerian Tribune. Youths bury man alive in Benue over claim he used thunder to kill own son. Wow. Youths bury man alive in Benue over claims he used thunder to kill own son. That's equally on page 27. And now let's move to page 26. The first story for page 26 is accident claims one. Lasma arrest victim with over 100 used children diapers. What? Accident claims one.
That's pathetic.
Yeah, that's pathetic. Last man arrest victims with over 100 used children diapers. What do you need them for? Then to another story on page 26. Kogi monarch dies in kidnappers' den. That's quite sad. We pray for the soul of the deceased. May his soul rest in perfect peace. And now to Sudan as a kicker of this story. The writer reads, evacuation of over 2,000 Nigerians via Cairo begins today. That's coming from NEMA. Nigerian female students weeps uncontrollably as war escalates. It's pathetic. Nigerians rush into Sudan for university education. ASU. Well, if the education sector in Nigeria was good, I feel nobody would have to run away from home and say they want to get better education for themselves. Not when you go on 7 months, 6 months, 8 months strike. Sometimes it's a year. So
the thing is, when I was reading, I saw comments like that. So I decided to make research. I discovered that what would have triggered that statement is the fact that Nigerians seem to be doing better
than Sudan.
Sudan, especially when amongst the African countries, it is classified to be one of the poorest countries. So
but I feel
exactly, like even despite the fact that we seem to have failed in our education sector, but nonetheless, Nigeria still stand a chance.
We stand a chance, but not at the expense of going on 8 months. Remove 8 months. I mean, there are people that have been in school now for 5 years. You see people where a 4 years course turns into a 6-7 years course. You're not studying medicine. True. So at that, because of strikes and other things. So when you actually think about it, if you have been realistic about these things, it's better you go to a country where you know your 4 years is your 4 years. And then I feel like there's this stereotype with people that study outside Nigeria. Exactly. I mean, even if it's just Togo here, you come back and say, I did study in Nigeria. Nobody cares, even if it's just Benin Republic. Even if it's just that river demarcating Nigeria, that you just moved past that river and you went to study there. The fact that you didn't study in Nigeria, there's just that general stereotype about people that didn't study in the country,
especially when you don't live in the country, when you don't school in the country, and then they feel like you are treated special. What you wouldn't blame them, because that's what actually happens. We seem to appreciate outsiders better, because I was reading a story about certain employers who maltreat Nigerian employees, outside employers, investors who come here and yet maltreat Nigerian employees, and they wouldn't try that. A clear case is a case of settlers. I don't know you read about the settler boss that was actually charged, and the federal government has even dropped all the charges. And apart from that, even during COVID, there was this Chinese company, I can't remember, I can't collect the name. They said the workers had to revolt because they felt like, why would you treat us this way in our own country? The list is not limited. Yes, lots of them going on and on, especially with investors who come here. We feel like we ourselves as Nigerians, our government do not treat us right. So they come in and then they malhandle or do not really treat us. I don't know where we are going as a country. I feel like we just need to do better, whether as Nigerians or even the federal government. So that's why when they go out, they just feel like they are more accepted. The same way when those foreigners come here, we tend to appreciate them more. No, you can't say Nigerians are particularly accepted outside. They give them opportunities. Nigerians, when they come here, they seem to get more opportunities. But some countries, when they go out, sometimes they get opportunities, sometimes they do not. They just have to strive through the harsh and tough weathers and move on. We pray it gets better over time. And now let's move to page 26 of Nigerian Tribune. Gunmen attack 5 communities in Plateau, 12 killed. And for business, NNPCL projects 3,650 megawatts from Ajaokuta, Kaduna, Kano gas pipeline. I take that story again. 306.50 megawatts from Ajaokuta, Kaduna, Kano gas pipeline. But now the thing is, Nigerian Tribune and Nation, they are not in synergy, because from the Nation we see 3,600 megawatts, and from Nigerian Tribune we get 3,650 megawatts. But then let's move on. NNPCL projects 3,650 megawatts from Ajaokuta, Kaduna, Kano gas pipeline projects. That's on page 6 of Nigerian Tribune. Then finally, project gulps $1.1 billion near 70% completion. Project gulps $1.1 billion near 70% completion. And President-elect Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on arrival at the presidential wing of Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja on Monday. That's yesterday. And that's all we'll take on Nigerian Tribune this morning. Do want to get a copy and, of course, to read more on the headlines. All right, we move straight to Daily Trust and our last paper for today. 2023 Hajj, Nigerian Airlines seek more slots. Saudi Korea takes 40%. Well, Daily Trust has come in a different angle for its top story. We have its rider saying, since domestic airline shares 51 billion naira, Saudi gets 34 billion naira. We must respect bilateral pact, says expert. A local capacity to deliver major problems. Well, details of that story you find on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And above the nameplate below the nameplate of Daily Trust, we have 70% of NNPC's AKK gas pipeline delivered. Project not abandoned. That is coming from Kyari. And details of that story you find on page 19 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Fresh intrigues as Northwest insists on Senate presidency. Fresh intrigues as Northwest insists on Senate presidency. You want to get details of that story, just turn to page 10 of Daily Trust. Tinubu return, says, I am ready for tax ahead. Celebrator says, I am ready for tax ahead. Details of that story you find on page 5 of Daily Trust. Benue man buried alive over witchcraft. Okay. Details of that story you find on page 17 of Daily Trust. Election Tribunal. Falana others back live broadcast. Election Tribunal. Falana others back live broadcast. Well, details of that story you find on page 24 of Daily Trust newspaper. And last on the Daily Trust newspaper, 2 Chibok girls escaped from Boko Haram captivity. 2 Chibok girls escaped from Boko Haram captivity. Well, a reminder that still in captivity, Daily Trust has acknowledged that 7 schoolgirls of FJC Benin Yori already 679 days already, and 1 student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, 655 days already. Well, that is all we can take on our newspaper headlines today. Do well to grab copies of each of these dailies read to you this morning. Right now, we will go on a short break, and when we return, we'll be coming with our guests. Our guests will join us to do some of the analysis where you yourself get to contribute on the discourse. We will be right back. Stay with us.
The Ajaokuta Kaduna Kano AKK pipeline, a 614-kilometer pipeline developed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to transport natural gas from southern Nigeria to central Nigeria, is said to be due for completion by the 3rd quarter of 2023. Since the commencement of the $2.6 billion gas pipeline project launched by President Muhammadu Buhari, there has been progress made amidst challenges, despite alleged claims that the financiers of the gas pipeline project have pulled out of the project due to alleged 570% inflated contract sum. The NNPP has assured that the gas pipeline has not been stalled due to lack of funding. Inspecting part of the project at Ahoko Gbagi community in Kogi State, the group chief executive of the NNPCL, Mele Kiare, reassured all stakeholders that they have a line of sight to project delivery on schedule.
The fact that we do not have third-party financing on this project, we have so far spent over $1.1 billion on this project from our cash flow. We are a very different company today. We are a commercial company. We have intercompany loans within our company now. This company can fund this project. So we do not need any support on this project. We will deliver this project. As we speak now, our contractors, we don't owe $1 to our contractors today. You know, we pay all their invoices. There are over 30 sites that are active today in this project, and we are very, very hopeful and optimistic that we'll deliver this project. Yes, there are challenges, security issues. We have lost men, and we are so sorry to their families. We continue to share their grief. But despite this, you know, we have gotten massive support from our government security agencies, the Nigerian Army, the Department of State Service, and all other government security to make sure that our workers work safely and that we are also able to continue this project uninterrupted. And we're most grateful to this team, and we assure Nigerians that this project is different. This project will be delivered. By the 3rd quarter of this year, we'll complete the entire welding of this works. And what it means is that we can actually energize this line by the 3rd quarter of this year.
Kiari noted that the gas pipeline, if completed, would further enhance the country's energy security.
What this means is that this line will flow 2 billion scoop of gas. And what this means is that you are delivering 2 billion scoop of gas every day into this line, powering industries, powering power plants, creating gas-based industries. And this is the ultimate objective. And of course, for the benefit of the Nigerian public, this is one of the most massive projects that we will run in the company. It is of immense proportion of value to our account. This project will be delivered. We are not scared of their comments. We'll deliver this project. And that they are just typical of our country's reaction to things that are going well.
The pipeline has the capacity to transport 2 billion standard cubic feet of natural gas per day to 3 proposed independent power plants in Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, and other gas-based industries, as well as other identified and proposed commercial off-takers along the entire pipeline route. Also speaking, the Group Chief Technical Officer, Oliserv, shared some of the challenges as he noted that the project will create employment opportunities.
For us, as I said, the PM has said, we have 15 active crews that are independent working. As you came to this place, you saw them working. So we are working full blast non-stop since 2000. Basically, as you've seen the challenges involved, we are not unaware of those challenges. As they come, we tackle them. So as you said, the pipeline construction is already 70-something%. Yes, whereas we are deploying more resources to complete it and deliver value to Nigerians. It's a massive development. For instance, in OISAV, this project, we're already employing more than 1,000 Nigerians. And then our subcontractors, when you now add their own employment aspects, get up to 1,500. And then at the end of the project, it will trigger and support economic development, that we support industries that will give employment to Nigerians, and then their dependents.
The gas pipeline project is another step taken by the federal government to ensure that revenue from oil and gas resources are utilized to support the emergence and growth of other non-oil sectors of the economy.
Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, RADEN, has zero tolerance for land grabbers and racketeers. The need to maintain Abuja Master Plan is our code of conduct and ethics. The attention of the Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, RADEN, has been drawn to online publication with respect to land grabbing syndicate in the Federal Capital Territory. These are people that encroach on lands that do not belong to them with impunity by carrying out construction activities. The recent case was the ugly incident where 7 suspected land grabbers were arrested within Buzape 2 over land racketeering, who are bent on grabbing land that do not belong to them. There are other pocket cases where land grabbing have been expressed within the FCT. It will interest our audience to know that majority of land grabbers are not members of RADEN. This is because they do not want to be subjected to the code of membership of RADEN. A self-regulatory organization for the real estate, as umbrella body of the organized real estate firms in the business of housing and estate development nationwide, we hereby state emphatically and categorically, too, that we detest such abnormalities. Anyone who is interested in getting land shall procure it genuinely by approaching the government or the owners and not encroach on land which is not legally acquired. We have often asserted that we have zero tolerance for any members who is involved in any form of unethical dealings in the business of housing development. As such, we use this media to call on all our members, in particular, to abide by the guidelines as stipulated by any of the land and housing-related department of the FCDA. Also, compliance with the extant laws is advised for all members. This is in tandem with the RADEN Membership Code of Conduct and Performance Commitment Form, which was signed by all registered members of RADEN. Accredited members found to be involved in any mess transaction will be brought to book, as we shall not harbor or condone any land grabber or racketeer in RADEN. Paramount amongst our concern in the FCT is adherence to the maintaining the Abuja Master Plan as designed and reviewed by the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
The Federal High Court in Maitama, Abuja, arraigned Bola Audu and 3 others in 2021 by the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons for human trafficking and exploitation of vulnerable persons, and thereafter expelled for anti-union activities. In a communique issued at the end of the meeting of unit chairmen of the association in the ministries, departments and agencies in Abuja, the association stated that after extensive and exhaustive deliberations, Bola Audu Innocent remains expelled from the union. The decision was made in light of his anti-union activities and his arraignment.
Solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. Victory, there is victory for us. Victory.
In view of the foregoing,
the meeting resolved as follows. 1, that the outcome of the prosecution of Bola Adu Innocent and 3 others by NATIP has no effect whatsoever on the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria, as the union was not a party to the court processes. 2, that Bola Adu Innocent remains expelled from the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria. That Bola Adu Innocent should be advised to wait for the outcome of his suit pending at the National Industrial Court, Abuja, wherein he is challenging his expulsion as a member of the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria, and not to take the laws into his hand, because Nigeria is a law-governed society, and that Bola Adu Innocent remains expelled from the union. That the entire unit chairman of the Association of Senior Civil Servants in all the ministries, departments, and agencies in Abuja hereby pass a vote of confidence on the national president of the association, Comrade Tommy Etim Okon, PhD.
Other members of the association also made it clear that the expelled former president of the union, Innocent Bola Adu, does not represent the views or interests of the association.
We know our leadership, and our leadership is in the person of Comrade Dr. Etim Okon, PhD. So we have no crisis in the association. The association is on course. We are moving seamlessly. So this television is for the public to note that we don't have 2 presidents. We only have but 1 president. And that president is the person that we are rallying around. That is the president that we know. That is the president that the NEC, the CWC, and other organs have supported to be there. So we are saying in the world that please let the world be well advised and note that the association is not in crisis. We don't have factions in the association. We are on course, and let nobody input otherwise. We will say that was the primordial source of his issue, as it is known, even in the public service room, that once a criminal offense is commenced against a civil servant, the first thing is the person is suspended. So what the association has done is not out of place. It is within the precinct of the law. In fact, all the dealings of the associations are predicated along the lines of the law.
The association, however, reaffirmed its commitment to the leadership of the national president, Etim Okon, and to the promotion of the welfare and well-being of civil servants in Nigeria.
Thanks for joining us and welcome to the press this morning. And of course, we've just finished the newspaper headline reviews. And now with us in the studio is Comrade Duke Alamboye, a political analyst, of course, to analyze the headlines with us. Good morning and welcome, Comrade.
Thank you very much. Thanks to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, let's move. I would like to ask you how your Ramadan or public holiday went, first of all.
Well, was it actually an holiday? It's time to put in efforts in meeting up things that we didn't do. So to me, it wasn't holiday. And the fun of it is that, times are so difficult. You're not seeing the flair of the period, the Salah period and all of that. But they say it's the small Salah. So hopefully we can
always the small Salah. Why is it always the small Salah for everybody? Because even if you ask Christians and they say this is not the one where we came to
I think the other Salah is closer to the Christian celebration. So it makes it big and close. But their prayers, even I think in their prayers, this is like a mid prayer to whatever the fiscal year we have. So I think that's what they do. Then the last one is a conclusion of Thanksgiving and all of that to end of the year.
All right, so let's move straight to some of the headlines already. And one of the major headlines in all the dailies this morning is aside from the Tinubu returns after 34 days, which we're going to be talking about, let's talk about Sudan conflict. Let's not talk about what is causing the conflict. Eventually, of course, we all know that, but Ethiopia blocks fleeing Nigerian students. Faction agrees 72-hour ceasefire. Federal government knocks students for ignoring warning against self-evacuation. And according to what we got today, that there are plans to send in evacuation for Nigerian students there. The first thing I want to ask is, why Sudan of all places? don't we have the system, the education sector, which can take Nigerian students better than Sudan itself?
Well, that's a rather rhetorical question, if I may tell you.
Okay.
We all know what is happening in our country. Recently, most especially this dispensation has paid little attention to education, especially at the tertiary level.
Okay.
And you saw the decay, you saw the level of disagreement between lecturers and federal government, disagreement between lecturers and students, disagreement here and there in the tertiary institutions. And you can see the long span of strike that we went into. That is one side. Secondly, again, you cannot compare the level of the standard of education that is ushered out in developed countries to that of our country. You see, where we don't have much research, we don't have much given to the lecturers. You cannot even, they're talking about even paying lecturers to satisfaction, to at least a level of livelihood not attained, to talk of providing facilities that will enhance our educational level. So you see parents that have traveled out, that understands what educational standard is, who want to have their children rather compete with the international world. Nobody is reading these days for a particular economy. Everybody is trying to see how it can expand its horizon to accommodating international best practices.
So if you're speaking
people
about
want to know. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you short. If you're speaking about international best practices or economy, you would agree with me that Nigeria has a better economy compared to Sudan.
Sudan isn't yet
even developed country.
Now, let me tell you something. It's stability in educational level we're talking about.
Okay.
We're not talking about, yes, Nigerian economically may be doing better than Sudan, but if Sudan has stability in the educational standard and their focus, their terms, what they call the yearly handouts, the yearly curriculum, for education is standard. People will go and school there. Then secondly, if the place is also peaceful, you can bear with me that the troubles in our country for a while have been too much. You cannot go to school in the north, you cannot go to school in the east, you cannot go to school. So many level of insecurity in our country. So people want to get a grasp opportunity of reading, getting through education fast and live. Then secondly, again, another thing that came to my mind again is, what about cost implication?
Yeah.
Some people would have been able to afford the cost for tertiary education in Sudan compared to Nigeria. And then they are sure the surety of rounding off your program within 4 years or the stipulated year for your course is also certain. So people think of so many things. It's not per se the level of development of the country, but the level of passion and interest given to education.
Okay, if you're talking about level of passion,
yes.
because ASU has come out to say it's pathetic Nigerians are rushing to Sudan for university education, and you and I would agree that ASU is there is no year they don't go on strike, or no administration they don't go on minimum of 7-8 months strike. So them coming out to actually say it's pathetic.
Yes, they are shooting themselves. They are shooting themselves at the feet, because this is the same complaint. If you stretch out the request of ASU from federal government, this is one of it. Enhancing educational standards. All our laboratories are outdated. There is no good research institutions. There are no good materials for students to learn, except the little effort the lecturers put in their research to make books out. So what are they talking about? If they're standing that way, I completely believe that they're shooting themselves on their feet, and it's hypocritical to sound the way they've sounded. We all know that our educational standard in time past had reduced, drastically reduced. So nobody wants to take the chances. Some people are within time bound to go to school. People sponsoring them are already fading out. You want to go to school that will serve you a course that will take you 4 years. It's taking you 7 years, 6 years, and so on. They will pay for your accommodation in school.
But wouldn't you
doing other things? You cannot compare it to a country where it is stable, where it has no fluctuation. The system is there, and people are very sure that once you go to Sudan and you start at 100 level, a 4 years course, 4 years you're leaving that town, you're graduated.
Okay.
So these are the calculations, and if you go the line of history, you can bear with me that I think for the past 10 years they've not had any issues with their tertiary education system. You cannot compare that to what we are having in our country.
Okay, we've taken that point. I want to put in this or ask in a question as regards to the factor where one could attribute this the rush to leave the country to school outside Nigeria.
Yes.
Especially Nigerians, we are just in a haste to just leave the country. This Japa syndrome of a thing. Is it because of she said before we started the show earlier, that there's this stereotypical issue of, when I school outside the country, I have better opportunities, and we make it so in the country in Nigeria. When you school in Harvard, when you school, you get better opportunities.
There are two sides to this. Let's consider two sides. Now, the first side is what we've explained: the delay in the school system, where you've projected to spend at least 500,000 naira to complete your 4 years course. There's interruption. There's policies not going well. The blame is not per se on ASU. Sorry, it's not on the lecturers. They also have their own side of the blame. But if the system is straight and focused, I think every other person will sit up. And then there is this comparison students make, or intending students make, when they want to choose choice of school, even within the country, where to go to and where not to go to, insecurity issues. Now, that is one. This decay, these vices that surrounds our tertiary operations, is making parents begin to feel safer their children's school abroad. Then secondly, the standard of education that is dished out also matters. Thirdly, when students graduate, what is in for Nigerian students as they graduate?
But you see Nigerian students,
they go back to either trade. In time past, you must believe me, statistically, I'm a youth leader too. In time past, you have to believe with me that 70% of our graduates that are churned out had gone back to upskill education to survive, because the areas of studies, there are minimal or no employment in those areas. So you see girls graduating as engineers, going back to learn how to fix nails and fix eyebrows. Of course, because they must survive. But there are no white collar jobs. But if you graduate at that level in a foreign country where it is stable, the possibility of you even having a better white collar job, in case you're not even qualified by status to stay for those what I call professional jobs, you will see yourself doing better things to survive best ways. You understand? So these are the comparisons. So nobody should blame students that are actually yearning to go out to get better things.
All right, before we actually continue, I would like to remind our viewers that our phone lines are open to take your calls and of course your contribution. And then over to you, Victoria.
All right, I want to ask you, how would you react to the federal government reaction to moving Nigerians from Sudan? Do you think it's timely or it's late?
Well, at first instance, we saw when they disassociated themselves with that, and I think civil societies and advisors had given advice, because it's untold. For every nation, for every government, the first priority for that government is to protect its citizens. Yeah. So wherever your citizens is or are, is your priority. Whatever that is going to get wrong for their coexistence in such country, the first thing you do is to pull them out. And these are one of the essences of having embassies in relative countries, so that you're able to know and checkmate excesses and time bounds of your country members that are coming into that country. That is why it is eminent that when one such thing happens, the safest place every Nigerian can be is the Nigerian embassy. Well, once you're there, it's assumed that you're safe. So the next thing is, if the country is becoming very unconducive for stay, they repatriate their citizens. So for Nigerian governments to have done this at this time, I don't want to go back to say we are blaming them. We thank them. I also know time passed, there was one country that was issues, and the office of the NSA quickly deployed for repatriation of our citizens. This is the best thing to do. This is how a Nigerian would have confidence in this country to say we want to also pay back patriotism to our nation. Not when there are heavy wars in the countries and then you leave your people to suffer, to die for what does not concern them. It's not necessarily appreciable, and we thank federal government for the actions they're going to take, and they should ensure that they should take it very well and make sure our citizens praised and sent.
All right, thank you very much for that contribution. But I'd like to take you back to one of the vices you mentioned affecting our Nigerian education, and let's take it from our lecturers and professors' angle and relating it to Nigerian election that we just, of course, finished. And now, if you say, oh, one of the vices, okay, yeah, we have ASU as their own part to play, but then some persons have come out to say we actually need to checkmate most of the professors we have in schools right now, because most of them are the officers, presiding officers for this said election. And of course, we know how this election went. We even have a case of Adamawa where somehow the REC came out to actually announce and declare someone else as the governorship elect of that certain state. So I would like to hear your opinion about this. Do you think most of our lecturers, they need to be checkmated? They need to actually evaluate them? Because if you said you are a professor, if you said you are a lecturer, what kind of knowledge are you imbibing in the students? Now, let's take it away from ASU and the federal government. We have to say we all have our roles to play in the Nigerian society at large.
Okay, with due respect to their profession, and they are nation builders. So I wouldn't want to sit down here to castigate or undermine their efforts in nation building. But be it as it may, it's so devastating, so shameful that some professors, first of all, INEC decision to give that responsibility to professors is born out of the respect and ability attached to that profession. Having been a professor means you are a master of your field. You're contented, you have contentment, you are able and you're capable at what level. You are a master in what you know. So it's a noble profession, and that is why the outlook for residing officers and whatever, returning officers, EOs, electoral officers, were given to them. Of course, again, I see survival level, I see poverty reigning in our country. So every opportunity, anybody, apart, it's not just the lecturers, the professors conducting election alone. Everybody that are coming to any political appointment want to quickly amass personal wealth instead of corporate wealth. They want to first about personal wealth. So that's what we're seeing playing. It's an opportunity to serve in a general election, and then this is where you meet with one of the most corrupt people in the country or in the world, politicians. So the ability to influence you, induce you, take you out of normalcy and make you feel very best of your form is there. A lecturer that has a professor that worked 20-30 years in his lifetime that has not been able to save £1 million is chased with 2 billion. So it's amazing, and it's tempting to reject. So you see them drop integrity, you see them drop that respect, that nobility attached to the values why they are handling that position to chase survival. So this is one of the prayers they've made. Increase the enumerations, make the lecturers, the professors comfortable a while. The same thing to the police, police officers. Make these persons happy because they are nation builders. The lecturer is a nation builder. The policeman is a social guard to citizens. While you are sleeping, the policeman is awake. While you are awake, he is awake. The more you are awake, the more duties they have to do. So, what is their level of comfort in life? At the end of the day, you see these police people, even at the level of IG, once they retire into nothing, forgotten for life. So these things are not good for us. The same thing is applicable to the lecturers. A lecturer that is earning well, I'm not saying that should be the reason why they should involve a justification to the involvement in irregularities in the election. It's quite unfortunate, but this is why we find ourselves, and it's untold, and these things must stop. That was one program I attended.
All right, please, a minute. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for calling the press.
Yeah, this is Alaba calling from Sokoto.
Okay, please join in on the conversation in 60 seconds.
Let me just make some contribution from what we are discussing.
Okay, sir.
Firstly, on the education system in Nigeria, when you have wrong people in the right places, what do you expect? The Nigerian education system is full of wrong people in the right places. Who is the Minister for Education in Nigeria? What is his knowledge about education? What does he know about education? Since he has assumed the office of being the Minister of Education, what significant improvement has he made on the education system of Nigeria? So people going out of this country, against the force. If you have money, you go out and do better education.
Come back.
If a parent is wealthy, send your children to where they can acquire good education, not this nonsense we have in Nigeria. All of those guys who are in the education system in Nigeria, they are fake people. That's number one. Number two, not talking about ASU, the professorship of a team in Nigeria. I have said it often and often. Professors in Nigeria are scams. They are not real. You call them nation builders. They are not nation builders. They are nation destroyers. They participated in this election and look at what they did.
Well, you have to be mindful of your utterances.
No, we are not mindful again. The situation of Nigeria has gone beyond that level. Let's call a spade a spade. The way we are treating issue in Nigeria is not the way, it's not the right way to go if we have to move forward in this country. Nigerian professors in Nigeria, they are nation destroyers.
All right.
They are not ready to build any nation.
Well, we've heard your thoughts.
Thank you for that contribution. So.
All right. One thing he said is when you have the money, send your kids outside the country. So when we keep doing this, who's going to fix this country?
Yeah, that's why we are doing election. That's why we have government. Yes, like you rightly observe, put the right pegs in the right holes. So for you to appoint an educational minister, it should understand what education is. It should even understand the level of decay in the system. For instance, you're not even understanding what it takes, and it's a political compensation. What about orientation? They just give ministers appointments. We're no more seeing orientations. We're no more seeing trainings for ministers. Who told you that when you're a minister, you know everything?
Exactly.
That is not true. The PAM secretaries are there to educate you. They must train you through what the process is. But these days, once you're a minister, you are all and all. The PAMSEC cannot even, the PAMSEC, who is an embodiment of knowledge of that ministry, cannot even direct a minister to say, no, this is not the ethic of this ministry. And you see them coming out with all sort of funny activities, not only in the educational sectors, everywhere. And that's why you see we are stagnant in so many states. If, like the caller rightly said, if you're putting an educationist to become the minister of education, he knows what the problem is. He knows what to do. Education is not something you seed for anybody. Education is where you seed somebody that will make it grow, because it lies the future of so many Nigerians. For the aspect of saying that they are not nation builder, well, I do not have the statistics to say that they are not
because
good.
We have the good
they are not good professors. Yeah, because we have the Abia State woman that stood her ground to say that she's not good, and many of them that did the election peaceful were not even hearing any issues in the state. So it's not because of the few corrupt ones that had come to show their bad and evil actions in the public.
All right, we have to I think we've talked so much on this issue, so I guess we have to move to another very interesting topic here, which says, the headline says, Tinubu returns after 34 days, dismisses ill health rumors, and the rider says, ignore ill health rumors, I will assemble strong team and hit the ground running. Well, Tinubu has gone under critique by so many critics. First of all, where did he go to? Now he's back and he's saying that I am in good health. So forget the illness, I will assemble strong. So what's your opinion about this whole thing?
Well, first of all, welcome President-elect.
Welcome, sir.
Back to the country. You're welcome, sir. And he's aged. There's no doubt that he's not in his prime age anymore.
Yeah.
And that anybody that is above that age is expected to have one ailment or the other. Like my own mother is above 60. I know she's hypertensive, what do you call it? So I'm not going to say she all is well with her at that age. There are natural illness that comes with age,
yes.
Eyesight, weakness of the body, the system, and all of that. So people should not disconnect the president-elect from that. It is his natural right to have those ailments. The most important question and the most important thing to talk about is how is it going to fare in his 4 years, the outlook for 4 years. That's what should concern us. Definitely, if the president,
he has said he's going to.
Definitely, if the president is sick, the president is sick. Even children they born today, that do not have any form of bacteria gets.
But you know
sick.
The problem is.
So I don't know.
It's not being sick. Sorry to cut you short. But you know we've had a certain precedent where all he does is actually travel out. So probably Nigerians do not want a repeat of what has been happening. We don't want a precedent where you get to travel often for medical issues. And looking at it from another angle, don't we have even good medical equipment that could actually treat you?
Good. I was going there. I was actually going there. I was actually going there. You know, one thing I've addressed him being sick. So I don't always personally. I don't always like when people take him out of make it believe as if yes, Nigerians don't know what they are saying. So every time they come up to say, oh, he was not sick, enough of all those. He's our president-elect now, and he's Nigeria's property, which we're liable to know exactly what is wrong with our president and how to go about it. That is where he is now. The political time had gone. If the president is sick, he is sick. If he needs medical attention, everybody prays for the president, as the Anglicans will always do. Now, the other one is in few days now, he will be Nigerian's president. So it should look at those things that will make him fly out so often, and begin to put in his programs how to restore the medical sector in our country. We want to see, that is what Nigerians yearn for. We want to see the president that is the country. We want to see the president that, oh, is in villa attending to medical listen, because those equipment that takes him out, or that will take any other person that have similar ailments like him, is in the country. These are what are they going into foreign countries to do? For what treatments? So if they can bring corruption from other countries to Nigeria, if they can bring bad products from other countries to Nigeria, if they can bring some level of development from other countries, this is one.
Okay, right. Please hold that thought. Let's quickly take this call. Good morning. Thank you for calling the press.
Good morning.
Good morning. Your name and where you're calling from, please.
My name is Chinet. I'm calling from Imo State.
Okay, please join in on the conversation in 60 seconds. Can you step away from your TV set?
Yes, I want to react on the issue of health.
Step away from your TV set or you reduce the volume, sir. Okay, we lost that call. Please continue with the conversation.
While we continue, if you want to call us, you have to step away from your TV set and also reduce the volume. Just speak to us via your phone and not the television set. Thank you.
Okay, so this is where he is having a task.
Okay.
And in as much as they're importing all the good and bad into the country, this is one thing I think they should import. This is one thing I think they should have a collaboration with, to make sure that these things are not happening anymore. Then the third side of his administration is back, and he has promised Nigerians that he's back and very healthy, sound, to take off his duties. My advice, that we shouldn't see that delay we saw in President Muhammad Buhari's first tenure, where almost 6 months had gone after election. We had no ministers. It seemed like an unready government. We've heard Asiwaju, president-elect, promised Nigerians that he's very, very ready. He has plans to become Nigerian president ab initio. And now that he's elected, we want to see immediately is sworn in. We want to see the ball at the whistle rolls, let the ball keep kicking, and then we want to see new faces. Nigerians are actually tired of these old faces. He is aged enough to have known people that are capable to administer his administration strongly and firmly, to bringing back Nigeria from where they are. I'm sure he's also very aware. During the campaign, I observed him disassociate himself from the development project of Muhammad Buhari's administration. He knew that the administration failed. He's very aware of the lapses of the administration. And thank God this government is also part of his government. And so therefore, he understands where they've gone wrong. He understands where they've built to rebuild strength into it. So these are the things we want to see. We want to see fresh Nigerians come on power. They are very educated Nigerians in all sectors. We want to see them on board. We want to see these old politicians fade away a little, so that we can have fresh air and rebuild confidence in politics that will give us dividends of democracy. This is what exactly he owes Nigerians. If we begin to see the whole politicians around him parading themselves as ministers and all of that, old governors parading themselves as ministers and all of that, mostly at the level of executions, that's ministers that will execute policies and good programs of this country. If we begin to see that again, it will just mean old administration still in continuity, just a new bottle. That is what Nigerians are yearning for. Where are his policy drives? We want to quickly see 2-3 policy drives that he will have. Nigerians do not really need very ambiguous this thing. Everything we need in this country is there for us. What is lacking is the execution. What is lacking is the implementation of these activities to drive us into this thing. Nigeria must move from consumption country to a production company. And this is where I really want the president to focus his attention to. Infrastructure here and there is too many. Infrastructures that will lead us to production. Fine, roads, electricity, good enough. Building of houses, leave all of that to the private sector to excel. Get a checkmate on them, but we deliberately need those infrastructure that would enhance productivity. The borrowing in our country is too much, so a government must come deliberately to checkmate those activities and return us back to productivity so that our debts can be running.
Okay, I like the fact that you mentioned Nigerians do not want cheap of the old blocks. That's the past governors or governors are about to leave now to still come back again. But then prior to this election, we've seen cases of people saying, oh, check my antecedents. I was once a governor before I ran for presidency. And now I would say, would you say bringing in new people on the block, would you say that's what we actually need Nigerians, or we need experienced people?
To add to what she said, you talked about with taking away the old people and maybe bringing in new people, politicians or people into offices. Do you see that even being actualized or feasible? Because
there are two different things. Let me quickly take you. There are two different things. Contesting for a political position is different from an appointment. When politicians had won the seat, the next thing left for them is to give out the dividends of democracy. How do you do that? Is not holistically bringing your political rivalries or political friends on board. Best still, if those political friends are capable, it becomes sectoral, it becomes taxi, because you're looking at, as a president, you're looking at so many sectors to satisfy. And if all you want to do is to bring back this country to its bounce ball, you have to be critical and deliberate and diligent in your selection. Politicians have where they belong. Technocrats have where they belong. Technocrats are people that concentrate on ensuring that the system works as it is pleased to achieve the desired goal. Politicians will check the system to see what they can get from the system. So there are two different persons. That is why you see a governor will give a project to Julius Berger. He is not giving it to his political friends. He gives to Julius Berger because Julius Berger, for instance, have the technical ability to execute roads and constructions. Do you understand? So there are two different things. So you cannot give a construction job to a politician A because he supported you. No, because he does not have expertise on it. That is how ministerial jobs are. That is how executions are. Until we leave that line of taking our political associates to those offices that do not even have idea, like the last caller said, they don't even have an idea of what the ministry is talking about, it becomes a major setback in your governance. It becomes a lacuna where people will begin to say you've not done A or B in these sectors because they are experts in that sector. Well, once you filled an appointment that is not in conformity with that, the experts will begin to react. They will begin to have closed door meetings with those people you have appointed, and they will begin to see that they know nothing about the industries. Fixing somebody that does not know anything about oil and gas to become the minister of junior minister of petroleum. But once those experts, the IOCs heads, the oil industries moguls begin to sit down with him to discuss, it will be opened that he has nothing to offer the ministry. So the time you have 1 year to develop the ministry, you're using 10 years even not developing the ministries. So this is what we're talking about. When we say keeping out the old blocks and bringing in new ships to see how the country run, we understand what exactly we're saying. Obasanjo did it in his tenure with the help of Atiku Abubakar. They brought the people likes of El-Rufai, Ngozi Owela, so many of them we can mention them. They brought them on board because they are experts in economic growth, and you saw how robust that economy was until it started.
Okay. So one issue that we do have in the country is some politicians seem to know what they are doing, like on the surface, until they get into office. Like you see a politician will come out, I have great manifesto, I can achieve this. You spoke very brilliantly. I'm sure one day when you're aspiring, so I will say, oh, he talks so well, he knows what he's doing, he knows what he's going to do when he gets to office. But when they get into office, then everything changes. We saw what happened in 2015, 2019 with President Muhammadu Buhari. The hope he brought and the rest and the likes, but he got into office. Is there like something that holds it's bound from actualization?
No, there is nothing.
I mean, a perfect example is the El-Rufai of Kaduna State. He was a minister of FCT one time, and then everybody spoke well of him, like, oh, you know, you do not mess with this person when he was the minister. But now look at Kaduna State.
Well, some will actually differ or disagree, because Kaduna State to some extent has improved better than it used to be.
But then when it comes to banditry,
insecurity, nobody, that's what I'm saying. No, as a governor, as a governor, it now depends. First, to your question, you're talking about will and ability.
Yes.
So most times the government circle have its own influence it plays when you sit at the end of affairs. Personally, it's very easy to dish out manifestos. I'm going to do this. You know the issues. Everybody, Tom, Dick and Harry in our country knows the issues. What we're looking for is a solution. Possible solutions can be searched, can be researched, and they are all displayed. When you come to government, the will to do those things is what is lacking. There is nothing holding anybody. The ability to sit, to say, no, this is what I think is best for this government. Let's try this first. It starts with appointments.
Okay.
But once you're putting one of Nigeria's problem is education. The second problem is insecurity. So if you're deliberate, you're very sound, and you want to solve the issues of insecurity, the service chiefs must be your concern, irrespective of ranking. If it needs you to retire so many to get to that one you feel that is fit to restore security back, you do that for national interest. You do not say you're becoming tribalistic, or you're becoming religional or regional. To say, oh no, it's from Yoruba, so it must be the one that will go. It's from Igbo, it must be the one that will go. These are the things that we find. These are the places where once you are there, these are the issues that confront you immediately. It's not about what you want to do now. It's about who to do it. What are the parameters you're setting to do it? So you see Tinubu now saying that he is unconcerned about federal character in his appointment, and it bothers me too. But in a way, he wants to look for people that can do the job. And if it is to progress Nigeria and is going to get all of them from the north, so be it. That's what is in the mind. But that is not good for growth. To be frantic, there is nobody you will see in the north to do a particular job. You will not see the same person to see in the south to do the same particular job. So, but what is concentration is, or should be, is concentrating on people that will understand your drive. When you're president, you're not minister. You will need to have ministers, and will these ministers be the people that will listen to your drive pattern, that will listen to your progression, or these are ministers that want to have their dividends having supported you to win? So these are the million-dollar questions. These are the taxi areas. Leaders usually find themselves, and at the end of the day, you see them messing up. You see party in one other side dragging you to say, no, this is what you're supposed to give to party, and they don't mind. Your projections, all your goodwill, all your good intentions for coming to become governor or become president will now wash into the drain, because your party people are there, political associates are there. The system corrupt persons in the system are also influencing you, so that you need a hard rock to crack to ensure that your policies work. There are so many Buddhists in our country. For instance, the issue of importation. For you to kill importation in our country, you have to kill so many intentions, so many bad intentions in the country, because there are so many people that survive through that cankerworm that is killing our economy. There are some products that we can actually produce in the country, but because people are bound on it, they can pay whatever they can to stop good policies that would straighten that sector. So these are the things we are faced with.
All right, let's move to other stories. We have here some minute story where we have 3 killed as Baggy Hausa youth clash in Abuja, and abducted Kogi monarch dies in kidnappers. Then I'll move to the I think Daily Trust. We still have another issue, of Punch newspaper. Ondo farmers raises the alarm of herdsmen attack. I thought we're done with issues of attacks and insecurity.
Are we really done? Because I know people have given way to the elections to be over. During the elections, there is no less vehicular movement, less business intentions and all of that. So the bandits are also learned people, and they are aware that it's a time the nation is fixing themselves. So when they don't have anything to fall back at the time that all these elections are gone, they are also, in a way to say, they are also resuming their work, and their duty is to kidnap and ensure that they make money out of it. So these are the issues. They are not the issues that are gone. They are issues that are still living with us. Just that it digressed to give way for the election process.
The issue of the Naira Crunch, the policy that was brought in was to actually curtail insecurity, as it was said, and to some extent we saw the impact. Some will say that the reason why insecurity died down a bit at that time was because there was no inflow of cash or money at hand, so we didn't hear so much about insecurity, and now the insecurities are back. So
yes, can we relate it to? Can we necessarily relate it to that policy? Yes, one of the effects of that policy, or one of the intentions of that policy, was to devalue the nairas that are not in circulations. And it is projected that those nairas that are not in circulations are seemingly the hands of politicians and these bandits that have gotten lots of millions of nairas from adopters. So, if you want to kill their value and their purchasing power, the policy, surviving the policy would have helped in that, because every fund in their hands would have been rendered useless. So, but I don't know where they went with that policy, and then I don't have the figures or the statistics to read out to say these issues really is bringing back banditry.
Okay, let's quickly take this call. Good morning. Thank you for calling the press.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from, please.
You are speaking with Nasir Usman Rawaya, MD Rawaya Cafe from Gusau, Zamfara State.
Okay, please join in on the conversation in 60 seconds.
Well, I guess you are speaking about the issue of a review of what happened in Nigeria.
Yes, please.
Well, let me just say a little bit about the issue of Serap that will complain about missing out.
Okay, please, when you are calling, do well to stay away from your phones, like we've rightly said. And thank you very much for joining us on the program this morning. We were able to, of course, grab the, but then let's quickly take this last call before we go. Good morning. Thank you for calling the press. Your name and where you're calling from, please.
Good morning.
Good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Fortune. I'm calling from
All right. Please join in on the conversation in 60 seconds.
My own contribution is that I want to tell Nigeria that people should not expect much. Yes, we should not expect much from the incoming administration based on following the antecedents of the, and the trajectory that brought into the power.
Okay.
It's also the same system that brought in the kind of transactional politics that brought in Buhari into power, that brought, so there is nothing different that will happen.
Okay.
What will happen is that there will be a kind of political compensation, which means allocation of ministers to those who help him to come into power.
Okay.
So that is why we crave for an independent candidate, like a person like Peter will be looking at his campaign and how he goes into the politics, to the top contestant.
Okay,
You
all right.
understand that if he had emerged as winner, he would only be loyal to those masses who were urging him, who brought him there.
All right, thank you very much.
It is the same Kaba that brought in Buhari that still helped Tinubu to come. So we are not expecting much. So Nigeria should not be disappointed when they start seeing results that will be coming. So it's not skyrocket on that.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that
Okay,
contribution.
what
What
do
do you have to
I saw
say
you
about
Yes, it's funny to sound that way, but I don't like people that are pessimistic. That's we should be optimistic and pray for the better for
I was
the
going
country.
to say if he's a soothsayer,
Yes,
or
because,
so
that is very wrong. We should be projecting our country for good. If I were him, we should be having an advocacy or a conference for good governance and urging the incoming administration to look critically and make sure that they move the country forward than to be derogatory. Understand? We are not so sad to have also known that if P2P had come, it would perform the necessary magic.
True. All right, thank you very much, Comrade Duke Alamboye, for joining us on the program this morning. It was really insightful, and of course, I'm sure our viewers learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we get to the social media segment where we get to see a video of someone obviously trying to express himself, but then it looks like English was a big word for him. Let's take a look at the video.
Spectrums. Today I want to declare without equivocation. Sorry, please.
Declare, leader. Declare, leader.
I want to say, Spectrums. Today I want to declare without equivocation. Sorry, please.
Declare, leader. Declare, leader.
I want to say, Spectrums. Today I want to declare without equivocation. Sorry, please.
Declare, leader. Declare, leader.
I want to say, Spectrums. Today I want to declare without equivocation.
So it's safe to say I want to say it too, because right now it looks like there was a lot that went.
English is not my father's language, neither is his. So please don't blame me. It's normal, okay?
It's easier said than done. So whatever is what
he's a comrade, in as much he passes out the message.
Yeah.
You understand?
I didn't understand though.
So did you understand?
Did you understand what he was saying? He was trying to say unequivocally.
Yes, exactly. That was what
and then I feel like
say.
the problem was not even him trying to communicate. It was the people that were behind it, and then they were just aiding him for saying what
definitely they are trying to
pass out to say. Is they say? All right, that is where we come to the end of the press this morning. We're very grateful. I'm no sorry to our callers that we couldn't take your call. We'll do what to call in tomorrow. We'll do hope we'll have time to take your call tomorrow. And thank you for your contributions this morning. I remain Mercy Babajide.
And I am Victoria Agbi, saying you should have a wonderful day and week ahead.
All right, bye.